Bye.
Hello, Player Development Pod family. This is season 2, and we are highlighting those who are doing the work. And today we have Alexander Martin of the Miami Dolphins. Dade County. Y'all in Dade County? Can I say Dade County?
Dade County.
Dade County. Let's go. Shout
Dade
out.
County.
Dade County. So excited to have you on. I've got to know Alexander the last 4 years, 3-4 years, just the leadership you've had at N4A and just the person you are. I mean, anybody, I could reach out to you for anything, and just, I mean, my man's coming from NACTA, like 3-hour time zone shift, and he's making time for y'all,
Yeah.
you know. That's who he is, and I'm excited to have him on. Alexander, if you could tell us more about yourself, Mr. President.
I'm still speaking that into existence, bro. Presidency is coming. University president. Everyone who knows me knows that's a staple. So definitely appreciate you having me on for season 2. You know, I thoroughly support the work that you do. So it's, blessings, man. I appreciate you. But as far as me, I'm originally from Illinois. So I've been here in South Florida for about 7 years now. And I can't lie, it's been great. The weather here is a lot better than what it is back home. But home will always be home for me. When I first moved here, I was working at the University of Miami, and I actually started in student affairs. And that was prior to switching over to UM's athletic department. I know one thing about me is I know I'll always be an educator at heart. And when it comes to student and athlete development, they both allow me to continue to pursue my passion in that. Whether it's from campus or in college athletics or here now in the NFL. Nice.
So if you can kind of talk about, you talked about getting there. If you could talk about getting into the role, because you played, correct me if I'm wrong, you played at Southern Illinois.
Yep.
Shout out to the Salukis.
Hey, there we go. Thank you for getting that right, because people be like,
yes.
What is
so we had,
yeah.
So when we were, you may know her, but when I was a coach at Side Lakes, we had she played basketball for us, Kim Nebo. And she went to Southern Illinois, and so that's when I found out about the Salukis.
Listen,
but
good people.
So yes. A Saluki, for you all that don't know, from my understanding, you correct me wrong, it's a fast dog. Like it's
it's the fastest breed of dog.
The fastest breed of dog. Yes, it's a branch off the cheetah. But if you kind of talk to us about you going from student athlete and how you transition into student affairs. And then, all the way up to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. Even before I start that, I just want to say shout out to SIUC and SIUC only. If you know, you know.
Yes. Carbondale, right?
Yes, sir. But no, it's a really good question. So I think the simplest way I can put it is I picked up the phone. That's about as simple as I can put it. But I just remember going back. I remember being a college athlete and not having an office dedicated to helping me grow into the best version of myself and all the identities that encompasses, right? So out of that, I found out student athlete development existed once I got to the University of Miami. I didn't start there, but I found out it existed when I got there. And I thoroughly enjoyed the work that I was doing in student athlete development because it allowed me to assist various student athletes with the help, services, and resources they needed with their transition, whether that was coming in as a freshman, trying to figure it out as a sophomore and junior, and getting prepared for whatever was next as a senior. Like, helping them get the experience that I never got to experience myself when it comes to actual human development. And then from that, actually, I got a phone call about an opportunity to continue doing the work that I love, but now at the NFL. So at that point, the pick was in, right? When the NFL team calls, you pick up the phone. And so when you ask how did I get into this field, I literally said I picked up the phone. And I get a lot of questions. People are like, well, how did they find you? Like, where did you apply? And it's like, right. I didn't apply. I never filled out an application. And I don't say that to be boastful, but I say that to say, you just got to be ready when the phone rings. Correct. And when they called me, they were just telling me about, it wasn't the work that I was doing at UM. Like, that was a bonus, but it was also the work that I was doing in various other areas. Because on top of the work that I was doing in student athlete development, I was also doing things for the ACC. I was also doing things for the NCAA. So all that encompassed that I had multiple skill sets that I was ready to use in other areas. I just needed the right opportunity to do so. And God had it that I got a phone call from the Dolphins one day. And they called me at 12 o'clock to see if I could do an interview at 2 o'clock. I canceled 3 meetings to be available for that 2 o'clock interview.
I don't blame you. Yeah, ain't no meetings. My schedule is free.
Thanks.
If you could talk about, because one thing you talked about it, but one thing I admire about you is just, I think a lot of people get caught, I don't want to say caught, but are so focused on their role. You did a lot of other stuff. And even in the city of Miami, I believe you were highlighted in one of the magazines in the city of Miami. Correct me if I'm wrong, for the work that you were doing there. Can you talk to people and just encourage people about, like, your mindset and like, hey, this is my role. These are my job responsibilities, but there's so much growth. Like you talked about the human development that these other opportunities can provide. So if you can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, no, and it's great, and this is what I love talking about, And as far as developing myself, like I keep the mindset of a forever student, right? So I'm constantly trying to learn new things, gain new skills, and that's what I got from my mentor, Dr. Derek Williams, back at SIU, and he taught me back then, sophomore year. And it's funny to this day. I can hear him in my ear, and he's like, "Hey, Mark, you got to keep your mind sharp. You got to keep your mind clear. You got to be forever progressing. Never become complacent, but pursue excellence." And that still sticks with me till today. And so, as far as my role when I was at Miami doing student athlete development, again, the job I could do, but I was ready to gain more skills. I was ready for more responsibility. I was ready to learn new things. And so I'm like, okay, well, while I have mastered my essential role and position at the University of Miami, I have that mastered. Why not take this opportunity to pursue other goals and gain new skills? So I started partnering with work with our ACC family. Shout out to my ACC fam. Started doing more work with the NCAA, doing disc assessments, doing lead facilitations for Career in Sports Forum or Student Athlete Leadership Forum and things like that. And what that taught me was that you're never going to be perfect as a professional, but you can always continue to grow. And I became a better facilitator through doing all that. I was meeting great people, started my network, but then also finding out new opportunities like NACTA and N4A, and so shout out to my N4A fam, but just putting myself in positions to succeed, but also not succeed myself, but help others around me succeed as well. And so that's really where my mindset comes from is Dr. Williams, speaking into my ear, hey, Mark, you got to stay sharp, continue learning and just forever be progressing.
See, I like that. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big believer of like what I do. And I tell people all the time is like, I like to go around and just say hello to people in the office. And I tell them all the time, like, I'm going to be around. Like I say hello. And then eventually once you get to know each other, hey, what are you working on? Like, what's the number one thing you work on or something that you do that I don't know? And let's share because you're learning because then now I learn this department. Okay, if they're going to work with us, I know I need to get this to them now because of whatever they do or just things like that. So I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer in what you said. Just continue to learn. If you could share your daily responsibilities with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Or your overall responsibilities. Because I know daily, I understand. I get it.
No, facts. So we'll kind of jump into overall. So my role assists in what we call the holistic development of our players, right? So we offer our players experiences and resources dedicated to helping our players, navigate the transition, into the NFL, through the NFL, as well as life after the NFL, right? And so we kind of have a player engagement division within the NFL. We kind of coined it as prep, life, and next, right? So preparation for the NFL, life within the NFL, and what comes next after the NFL. And some things that we include in that, we have our rookie success program, we have veteran programming, as we also do some significant other and family programming as well. Because when I'm onboarding a player, I'm not just onboarding that player, I'm onboarding their family. So that's that's Uncle Ray, that's Auntie, that's little cousins, brother, sister, mom, dad. I'm bringing that. We're onboarding everybody because it is a family and it is a community. I think too, the key to it is just, as far as the responsibilities and the overall role, is just being intentional with the process, right? So, for example, for practice squad players that don't travel to away games and don't dress during home games, like what are we doing to keep them involved in addition to feeling like part of the team? And so one thing I got to do previously, I think it was this past year, was for our practice guys that didn't travel to one of our away games, I took them to a J. Cole concert that weekend, and while the team was traveling, right? So to some, it's been like, I'm just taking players to, a J. Cole concert that was in Miami, but no, like it was a way to get the guys together for a Saturday, bring their ladies, break bread, watch a concert together, go to dinner afterwards, but it's creating engagement and community amongst the players. Because again, if you're on IR or a practice squad guy, like, the excitement of game day, you don't really get to experience that. But what can I do in my role to help them feel like, although they're not at game day, they're still supported, they're still covered, and they still have somebody looking out for them amongst everybody else, right? So it's all about building community and building engagement. And that's what we are. We are player engagement.
No, I'm a big, like, that community deal is, that may be one of the most underrated things in sports, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just how, I don't have pro experience, but my whole deal is like the locker room. Like, these guys, when we travel and those freshmen, those red shirt, like how do we, because you fight it, right? You got the guy who's been all state, all this, played everywhere, and then they're like, oh well, the team, they're gonna go play a game, and it's like, no, like that's like it's us. Like I get it, and it's different. So I think I appreciate that. If you kind of talk about some of the differences.
Yeah,
because I think the family onboarding is something that I've learned, and it's consistent with everybody. But some of the differences of college athletics and pro athletics when it comes to this.
Yeah, so I think for me the biggest difference in my transition has just been the time commitment. Right, so in college when you're doing student athlete development, you're working with all the teams. And you still get somewhat of your Saturdays, Sundays, your weekends off. Still somewhat of you get off at 4:30, 5 o'clock unless you have like a late night program. And you have like, sports that are in season, out of season, and things like that. But the NFL, it's a time commitment. Like it is a full-fledged time commitment. When I first started, I started the week before training camp. So people were kind of getting in at 7, 8, getting off at 4, 4:35. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can get used to this. But when training camp started, that was like 5:45 a.m. to like 8, 9 p.m. that night, every day for 6 weeks. So I'm Saturday or Sunday through Saturday, every day.
Yeah.
Players had, I think every 3 to 4 days, players had off. But staff and coaches, we was in there. We was in there like we had a game the next day.
Here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We in the building. And so that's training camp. But then also you get to the regular season where we're still working every day, but it's not the time constraints isn't that strenuous. So travel day is Saturday, game day Sunday. Monday is big film review day. Tuesday players have off, but we're still in the building. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday practice days, and you have fast Friday. But when you get to the off season, we have Saturdays and Sundays off, Friday like half day. But the period we're in right now is like the break between off-season program and training camps where everyone has like 4 to 6 weeks off, no work, no nothing. So I'm in week, what is it, 2.5, 3? I'm in the middle of that, and it feels great. But for me, that the biggest difference is the time commitment. And it was a struggle at first because I remember being with family and friends watching football, NFL on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Well, now that I'm in the NFL, like I'm no longer with family and friends. Like I'm playing football. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So I really can't plan my holidays or travel schedule until the NFL releases the NFL schedule. So, in a sense, I kind of don't control, when I have free time. Like I somewhat can, but I can't let my family know what I'm doing Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's until the NFL schedule is released. And so that took a little bit of, that took a little bit of transition for me to get comfortable with, and which it was. I mean, this is what I love to do, and I love the work. But I think too, in regards to the type and level of programming, in the NFL, it's different because now guys are like adults. I say adults as we know adults.
No, I get it. Yeah,
they should be adults.
It's business.
But it is a business, right? So. And I'm looking at players. So, for instance, in my role, when I onboard a player, I'm usually the first person they see when they walk into the building. I may be the first phone call. But if we have to cut a player, I'm the last person they see also. So I see you when you come in, but I also see you when you leave. So it's a different mindset. But the mental health aspect in the NFL is crazy because in college, you're still in that in college athletics, you're still in that bubble of higher ed, right? But in the NFL, like there are no guarantees. You know what I'm saying? Like there is no safety net. Right, like if you get cut, you get cut. Now there are services and resources through the NFL and NFLPA to help guys stay on their feet as far as training and things like that if they do get cut. But just preparing guys from the mindset of, take the NFL draft. Like just because your name gets called, like that's great, but like you still got to make it through rookie minicamp, and then you still have to make it through training camp, and you still have to make it through preseason just to make the 53-man roster. So just preparing these guys mentally for what life in the NFL is like, because we have this thing called the rookie wall. So where there's a point in the season where most rookie college players are usually done, playing. That might be November, December, or, January. But like in NFL, that's like the halfway point. You still have half a season to go in the NFL to where you would normally be done in college. So the type and level of programming that we do, we have to be heavy on the mental health aspect. We have to be heavy on the personal growth aspect as well, because in the NFL, just the way the schedule is set up, you can think about football for 24 hours a day and never leave that mindset. You can never take that helmet off. So we got to do a good job in player engagement and making sure that we're providing opportunities for our players to step away from the game when they need to. step away from the game and just be a son, just be an uncle, just be a father,
Right.
or just be them, just be Alexander Martin for a day and not necessarily the wide receiver, and so we're just being very intentional in our program and making sure that we're hitting the guys' needs. Now, of course, no two needs are the same, but that's why building trust but also sustaining trust is just as important in this role.
No, I appreciate that. So going back to this is probably a question you get all the time, and
I
the only
it.
reason I have this, the only reason I put it on here is just once again, there's students listening to this, there's people that want to get into it, listening to players like that are playing right now. They're like, hey, this player, development, player engagement, I like that. And you've got this question. I get this question every time, and I just have to I smile and laugh. I know the answer to it, but can you tell everybody what your everyday looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll try to make it as succinct as possible. So, again, no 2 days are the same, especially in athlete development. But typically, we have what we call our team schedule. That includes our team meetings, O&D meetings, special teams meetings, practice, media availability, and things like that. All the stuff that's team wide, right? But then we have what we call the schedule beyond the schedule. And that's where we come in player engagement. That's where we have rookie success. We have veteran program, and we have community service. But I think most importantly, finding ways to be available if and when the guys need us, right? Our number one role, our number one thing in this role is the well-being, safety, and holistic development of our players. We have to be readily available to assist in that front. So a lot of what I do in the schedule beyond the schedule is really navigating and finding time within the team schedule, right? Because I'll go through a typical day. We'll wake up in the morning. We'll have treatment for the guys early in the morning, breakfast. We'll have team meeting. We'll go into O&D meeting. Then we'll go into special teams meetings. Then we'll have walkthrough. Then we'll have practice. And then we'll have lunch after that. Lunch be fire, bro. We get so much food. It's so good. But then after lunch, you'll go right back into O&D meetings. You'll go right back to special team meetings. You'll review tape, lift, film, and then you have dinner, and then we're out the door. That's probably the quickest and simplest way I can put it. But again, typically we have the team schedule, which tries to stay consistent mostly. But again, the schedule beyond the schedule is where I come in with the rookie development, the veteran development, practice squad guys, IR guys, community service. But again, just finding ways to meet the guys' needs. Sometimes we'll have a group of players come in and be like, yo, we're trying to learn about crypto. What can we do? I bet. I'm going to make a phone call to a local restaurant, see if we can book the back room, and then bring in an NFT or crypto expert, and we'll chop it up and break bread over dinner, talking about NFTs and crypto and things like that. So it's a lot of being flexible, but also be a lot of FaceTime as well, and just making sure that you can call an audible when need be, or you're ready if and when a player needs you.
Yeah. So
hopefully that was specific enough to where.
No, that was good. That was good. So what is the biggest thing that you've learned in this role?
Yeah, and looking at year 2 right now, it's been crazy, but for me, you have to be willing to adapt and call the audible. The schedule changes constantly. You'll be pulled in every direction. Everybody needs something. And I know as a wide receiver in college, we were always taught to keep your head on a swivel. For me, that still applies today. And, as athlete development professionals in the college and professional space, we're in a very unique position where we kind of touch everybody. In college, if you're in student athlete development, you're talking with academics, you're talking with compliance, you're talking with the trainers, you're talking with the coaches, you're talking with the business office, staff, everybody. Right. It's the exact same thing in the NFL. I talk with our IT guys, I talk with our video guys, I talk with our scouts, I talk with the coaches, I talk with the trainers, I talk with the equipment room. And so most times when somebody needs something, they'll come to us in player engagement because we know we're that close to the player, or we're always in the player's ear. The players are always with us. So at 10 o'clock, I could be in a phone call from a trainer about a player, and then at 10:30, it's the video, right? And then by 12, I got a coach looking for a player, and then by 1 o'clock, I got communications looking for a player. So we're in the ear of everybody. So you always have to keep your head on a swivel. But also, it's helped me learn to continue to be flexible, but also just continue to improve my process, like my daily process of how I approach the day, and just being flexible with that too.
Nice. So you work for Caleb Thornhill is incredible. I can go
the guru,
the guru, man. Like we talked about it before we got on. Like I was at the University of Houston doing player development, and we had a couple guys on the team at the time, and you all were practicing. The Dolphins were practicing at our indoor facility. Yeah. He reached out an email like, I want to sit down and have a panel. And he's got Jason Jenkins, senior vice president, Wes Serrano, Trey. I mean, he's got like people, like these are people, like not like, hey, let me, and no disrespect to anybody, but like this is like, these are people. A great group. And, he's like, I want to talk to the players. I want to talk to them about those who want to learn about sports. And so I was just blown away by that. And then you see the work he's doing, and we'll talk about the specific program that you all do. That's just, man, just incredible. What does support look like to you in that role?
Yeah. And I mean, first off, Caleb, like Caleb is, I mean, when you talk about player engagement and really setting the foundation for what it is and what it should be like, I mean, Caleb has written a playbook, like just to be able to learn from him, in this role has just been incredible. And not only learning new things about myself, but learning new things about the NFL, player engagement, just following in his role, following his lead and taking on it, and looking at the way he leads his leaders, not just with me and our staff assistant Tyler, but also with the players, how he approaches his day. It's his work ethic is incredible, and I think anybody who knows him knows that. And even for support in my role, what I learned from him is communication and clarity, right? And I think it's kind of like what I said before, in professional and in athlete development, both professional and in college. Again, we're a unique position where we talk to everybody, and you could be you can't be everywhere at once, and that's why for me communication and clarity are crucial to success in this role. But that's what I learned from Caleb, like communication and clarity. There is no clarity like clarity. With as many people as we talk to in a day, I mean, it's crazy. Like the group the group text messages, the teamwork, the phone calls, the emails. We in the course of like maybe 20 minutes, we could probably talk to the whole building on the regular.
Wow.
And again, with that communication, clarity, like both of those go hand in hand to have success in this role. And those are both things I learned from Caleb and just watching him go about things day by day.
Nice. You all do something. I highlighted it in one of my episodes in season 1, the business combine, which is, and correct me if it's a business.
The Dolphins business combine. Yeah.
Yes, the Dolphins business combine. And I'll figure out the episode. I'll put it in the show notes or whatever. But I had an episode where like literally I put every single year. It's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, just in, like you said, athlete development overall. Yeah. If you can talk about that and share as much, I know y'all share as much, just educate those on what we're talking about, what it looks like. I mean, you guys had, B Marsh up there this year. Yeah. You guys had somebody talking about crypto. If you could just kind of talk about the business combine for those listening.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, DVC, I mean, it's incredible. And again, that's another Caleb Thornhill original, it's a week-long learning experience, built for the players by the players, right? So, and it helps them unlock the essential skills needed to thrive in business management and entrepreneurship. So, like you said, we had Brandon Marshall up there this past year, and it was good to see him on stage and talk to the guys about he's able to take all of the skill sets he has that was both on the field and off the field and set up House of Athlete, with the mental health aspect of that too, because I think that also goes unnoticed is how Brandon Marshall puts mental health in with House of Athlete, but then also now production studio in the House of Athlete. So putting people in front of the guys who have been intentional and driven, a lot of them former players, on how to set success up for yourself outside of the sport, whether that's during your playing so you can be set up after you're done, or when you're done and all right, so say you're done playing and now you want to invest your money in something else. So the business combine is really key and intentional on putting putting people in front of the guys to help them learn and gain the skills necessary to thrive in business management, entrepreneurship, but also just self-development and professional development within self. Self-development is great, but professional development within self is kind of taking it to the next level. And that's what the DBC is all about, between putting speakers in front of the guys, but also the deep dives where we take the guys out of the site and actually take them to different companies across, South Florida to see what it looks like in action, right? I think it's one thing to watch tape and write notes on something, but at some point you got to go practice it, right? And so we take the setup of what practice game film is like for the players on the field, and we apply that to the business combine as well.
Nice. So We'll move to the advice part. And you already shared with us the best advice you got from, shout out to Dr. Sean Williams, correct?
Dr. Derek Williams. Yeah.
Dr. Derek Williams. Shout out to Dr. Derek Williams.
That's my guy.
Yes. What advice you've done a lot, and you're in. I know you probably came from from NACTA, giving so much advice to those. But what's advice to those looking to get in roles, let's say student affairs, student athlete development, and even a player engagement position?
Yeah. And to kind of go back real quick, so it was a question that you had asked, but I want to clarify it too. It was like the best advice I ever received in my life. And I'm glad that I heard that last piece of the question, because I think this is so key. But, for me, and this is kind of one of my guiding principles, I think too many people miss the opportunity to raise their game to a higher level because they don't take advantage of opportunities to reach back for others and teach others as well. A lot of the success that I've had, college, learning, higher ed, learning student athlete development, to now learning, player engagement. I've met some phenomenal people, whether they were, my supervisor, somebody I worked with, or a grad student. It's just whatever I can do to continue learning. I'm also going to take what I've learned and make sure I pass that to somebody else. And that's what filled my cup when I was in Vegas for N4A. I know I've had a lot of experiences, and it's great getting to see people you haven't seen in forever. But for me, sitting on the new member orientation panel and talking to a lot of the new members of N4A, those who are new to the association, but also first time working in athletics, me just being able to pour into them everything that I had to experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, the successes, the ups and downs, just so one, they can get a look at what this work looks like, but also something to look forward to. Like, we all know in this work, not every day is going to be a great day, just like not every day is going to be a bad day. But it's the passion that we have for this work, and as far as getting into this role, I'll say student athlete development first, it's all about building relationships, but it can't stop at just building relationships. You have to sustain and maintain those relationships as well. And it's funny you ask, so player engagement specifically. This was a hot one that I often get asked about. How do I get into that role? I want to do athlete development, and I want to do it at the professional level. I want to do player development at the professional level. And I usually smile when I ask that, because it's like, I think people have to remember, for those looking to get in this role at the professional level, you got to be patient. There's only 32 roles like mine that exist total. Yes. Because there's only 32 NFL teams, right? So there's only 32 positions like mine that exist total. And they're all, as far as I'm concerned right now, they're all filled. And then when one moves, it's kind of like chess. Now everybody else is moving. Right. And so the reason I say that, again, one, if you're looking to get into this role, be patient. Again, there's only 32 of them that exist. However, find a way to get into a club or into the NFL. Then once you get in, it can be easier to navigate. So for the NFL example, I had a couple of people ask me these past couple of weeks, how can I get into player engagement, or how can I get to the NFL? I'm like, well, start with being, like, if you're like an intern or a GA or something right now and you're looking for something quick, be a training camp intern. Like, training camp interns touch just as many people as player engagement. Like, if you're a training camp intern, you're out on the field at practice, you're with the coaches, you're with the players, you're in the equipment room, like you're in the training room, like you're in the locker room, like you're in the area, all the areas you need to be to have people vouching for how good you are at your work. If you're putting the blood, sweat, and sweat equity in there as well. But you just got to find a way to get in first. And once you get in, then you can navigate the space. If a player engagement, position isn't open, look at ops, look at scouting, look at equipment, look at community relations, look at public relations. There's more than one way to get into, an NFL club. And I know when people see things like student athlete development and player engagement, they go, I want to be amongst the players. I want to be amongst the players. Well, it's hard to work for an NFL team and not be amongst the players. Everybody does that. It's just they're in different. Everyone has their own lane in doing so. Outside of the coaches, player engagement may be one of the ones that works with the players the most. But again, there's only 32 of those that exist. So again, my advice for that is be patient, but just find a way to utilize your skill set to get into the NFL, up in Manhattan at headquarters, or get into an NFL club. Look at look at ops, look at scouting, look at, athletic training, look at equipment, just find a way to get in. Community relations is a great way to start. PR, communications in general, phenomenal ways to start. But I think every time I hear that question, I can see the face of the person that's asking. They want to do just player engagement, just player engagement. I'm like, well,
Right now.
like, right. And it's like, well, you can work up to there. Like, if you can't get it in now, like, I don't want you to wait until something opens. Like, go somewhere else and gain the experience first. And then when it's ready, it'll come to you. And that's what happened to me. Again, I started off in campus activities. I was planning, I was helping plan homecoming, the late night games, the pep rallies, comedy shows, the concerts. I was helping plan all that. I was helping to plan all that. But what I got from that was I got the skills of event planning and programming and how to network and utilizing services, utilizing resources. I took all that, and it just so happened I was a former student athlete myself, packaged that up into a student athlete development role in athletics, right? And then took what I learned in student athlete development and then now I'm turning that into player engagement in the NFL. So all I'm doing is taking the skills that I've learned along the way and packaging that up and taking it with me to my next role to help continue to add value in whatever it is that I'm doing. Long-winded answer, but I get passionate about that question because I get it all the time. Absolutely. How do I get into player engagement? How do I get into player development? One, be patient, and there's only 32 of my roles that exist, and they're not going to come up every day, and they're probably not going to be posted. So if you're doing the work that you should be, somebody will contact you, and I can say that because that's how it happened to me. Like, they told me, like, I saw, like, my supervisor, he called and said, I saw the work that you're doing, and it's reached here at the NFL level. I see what you're doing, and I see the work that you're doing. Would you have interest in doing that here with the Dolphins? And I said, absolutely. And again,
There's
to
no
me,
doubt.
I promise you, man, it was a blessing because again, I've never filled out an application. Like, never. I got a phone call one day because somebody saw the work that I was doing. It wasn't like I was out there advocating, I need a new job, looking for this, that. No, I'm not. It was just I was in the space learning and continuing to gain my skills, constantly learning from Sherelle Jackson, who was phenomenal and just helped keeping me like on task and like with professional development. And she's the one who used to sit me down and be like, yo, Alex, look at the opportunity you have here. Like, this job found you. You didn't go out and seek it out. It seeked you out because of the work that you're doing both in this office and everything else. So again, for those looking to get in, just be patient, but try to find creative ways to separate yourself from what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. And I'll share this. I don't know how many people know this, but I love your advice. The one thing I learned this because I was in a situation like you, never filled out application. So my resume, I never updated. And then I get somebody from the NFL for another position. I found out later what team it is. Mm-hmm. Literally sends me an email, hey man, I need your resume right now. Like, somebody's looking for somebody. I'm like, I literally start freaking out. I'm like, man, I ain't touched this resume in 2 years. Like, I'm just like, no.
Right, you open it up, it's like 2011. Right, like, dang.
Right. And now I'm not saying that I would have got the job because they hired a person who's incredible at what they do. But I'm just like, it's a reminder to me, like what you said, it's like, just do the work and be ready. Yeah. But yeah, I was like, man, once I saw the word resume, I was like, all right. Do you have a practical nugget that you can share, like something you do practically in your role to find success?
Yeah. I'd say don't confuse activity with action. All right. Don't confuse activity with action because you could be moving real fast and not going nowhere. And I think too, whether you're in the college space or the professional space, it is a lot of running around. Like, again, you'll be pulled, you'll making calls every day, text messages, you're talking to a lot of people. Yeah, but like, what are you doing to further develop yourself in your role, but also further develop those you are put there to help assist, right? So I could go into my role every day and just do rookie success, just do veteran programming, just do the mandatory program. Like, I can literally just check those boxes and not have to do anything else. But again, that's just activity. There's no action behind that, right? So when I go into my role every day, when I go into my office, first thing I do, when I say hi to our front desk worker, Valerie, like, phenomenal. She runs the building. I say hi, hello to her. How was your weekend? But then I'm in the locker room chopping up with the guys. Like, yo, what's good? What's new? How's the family? Like, if we're in that building, we could talk football all day. But my role isn't to talk. My role isn't solely about them and their football life. Again, I'm about the holistic development of the player. That means not only how they're doing, but also how their family is doing. Like, what am I actively doing day in and day out to continue to build trust with these guys, continue to develop these guys? That means going above and beyond my job description. That means going above and beyond just what my essential roles and duties are. Trying to find creative ways to innovate our daily work. And between me, Tyler, and Caleb, I think we do a phenomenal job in checking in on our guys. Now, we have guys that go to, different people, which is fine, but they know at the end of the day, player engagement is there to help them with whatever it is they need. And so when I say don't confuse activity with action, make sure there's intentionality behind what you're doing. Make sure there's a purpose behind what you're doing. Not just for the players, but for you too. I learn just as much from our players as they learn from me, So when we bring in financial literacy speakers for the rookies, I'm in the back taking notes myself. Again, I'm forever a student, and you can't be too good or too grown in your role to learn something new. Yes, I got the role, that's fine, but I'm still growing as a person. I'm still growing as as Alexander Martin. There are still things I need to learn in order to get to that eventual university presidency. I might be a GM one day before I get there. I'm gonna speak that into existence too. But that means I just have to make sure continue to learn all that I can while I'm in this role to continue fine tuning and developing my skill set to be prepared for whatever that next call may be. So don't confuse activity with action. Just make sure you're being purposeful and intentional in your role in what it is that you do and have a passion for.
I love that. So, you discussed so much about how you take care of so many people, not only players, professionals, other people. How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, good question. I think in athlete development in general, we pour a lot into everybody else, and we have to remember to give ourselves grace and pour into ourselves too. And so one thing, I live in Miami, right? So I go to the beach often and a lot, but that helps me because it takes my mind off the game, and it allows me to feel peace in the quietness of still waters, right? So the bay and the ocean, it just never ceases to amaze me because of how calm and quiet it is. But at the same time, just the sound of the calmness, that's what I enjoy. Again, I'm from Illinois, so I'm not used to seeing the bay and palm trees and all that. So I go outside and get fresh Florida air. But I think too, Dr. Lacey Carmen Johnson with the Toronto Raptors, that's my work twin right there. Her and I got into our leadership roles with the N4A at the same time, but we also came into our new roles within the NFL and NBA at the same time as well. And I just want to shout out her because I can't tell you how beneficial it is to have somebody that knows you and understands you, but also is going through similar things where then you can talk about, not just best practices and the work that we do. We can do that any day, but how are you feeling? Yes, we're on the road all the time. We're in work all the time. We're in the building all the time, but those quick check-ins, right? And to have her and me in a similar position, obviously different leagues, but just to have somebody that you can kind of reach back to and just check in on, that'll check in on you as well. Because I think when I've heard this one day, it was somebody said, always check on your strong friends, right? The strong friend is the one that's reaching out to everybody else, but you don't know if anyone's reaching out to them. And again, I reach out, me and Lacey talk and text often, even if it's a quick check-in, so when it comes to taking care of myself, I have great people like Lacey. I have great people like Lamar Pottinger, right? Great people like my best friend, Nick Bates and Dr. Williams. I have my group of people who check in on me regular, and it just feels good to know that people know how hard you work, but at the same time know, hard work was great, but so was, peace and rest. Absolutely.
It's interesting. Shout out to Dr. Lacey Carmen Johnson with the gyms. So she actually interviewed also, and she brought up your name and kind of the same concept. So that's come on, work twins. Twins.
That's my work twin right there. We know.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you answering that. Oh, wait, we got rapid fire. I love this. I always catch people.
Let's go.
All right. Here we go. What are you reading right now?
What are you reading right now? I'm actually going back and reading Atomic Habits. The reason I'm going back to read Atomic Habits is I'm constantly learning, but I find that Atomic Habits is a great way to not only fine-tune your habits, but also help you set new standards, right? You can have your habits that you do every single day, but what standard are you setting with those habits? Is it a low standard or is it a high standard? And if those habits become something that you can do day in and day out fairly easily, then maybe raise the standard a little bit to challenge yourself each and every day. So I like that.
I like that. That is one I definitely need to go back and read. It's one of my favorite reads ever. I need to go back and read it. Yeah. What daily discipline are you working on?
Daily discipline I'm working on. So one thing I relearned about myself in Vegas, I'm an extreme introvert, bro. I got energy for days, but I am an extreme introvert. But one thing I continually work on every single day is being comfortable in those spaces where I'm used to just comfortable being an introvert, right? So I know I talk to people on the daily and all that, but every day I try to get better, just not necessarily saying more, but feeling comfortable, in large spaces and large people for long amounts of time. And I'm getting better at it. That doesn't mean I can't do it. I love being around my people at N4A, but I would tell them, I got to go back to my room and recharge my battery. But
Right.
one of my disciplines is just being comfortable, in those spaces for longer periods of time. And again, not necessarily meaning I have to say more, but just feeling comfortable more.
Absolutely. Okay, you've been in Miami for 7 years now.
Yeah, man.
What? Somebody gives you $25 for lunch. Where are you going?
I'm going to Donna's Caribbean Cafe and getting oxtail, extra oxtail on the or extra
Oh, my
oxtail sauce on
goodness.
the extra oxtail gravy on the rice with the plantains, rice and peas, and I'm gonna need my extra plantains too. So I'm going to Donna's Caribbean Cafe and getting my large oxtail, extra oxtail gravy on the
Man,
rice.
okay. Well, if I go to Miami, I know
And
where
to
I'm
be
going,
honest,
man.
like it might be $27 though, so I'm gonna need an extra $2.
But it'd be worth it. Definitely
It
worth
will be
it.
worth it
Oxtail's
for
worth
sure.
it.
It'll be worth it for sure.
All right, this might give you $125 for dinner. Where you going?
$125 for dinner. $125. That's a regular. That's a regular dinner in Miami. Miami's
Man.
expensive. I like Capitol Grill, the one that's right on the water. Capitol Grill.
Nice.
I'm a big steak guy. And so is it the fanciest restaurant in Miami? No, because there's a new fancy restaurant every year. But Staple Grill, Capitol Grill has been a staple for me since I've been out here. And it's pretty clutch, and it's right there on the water in Brickell too. So you know me, I like the water.
Yeah, nice. All right, if you could join a music group, past or present, who would it be?
Past, I'm going 112. I'm gonna be right there. I'm gonna be right there with Slim with the headband and the wristband on.
Man,
Numbers in your pockets, like
yeah. I remember when you
exactly
used to throw
those things away.
Yes.
Why do you look? I'll be right there next to Slim. Headband,
I already know. I already know. I always felt like 112 was always ready for a music video and a pickup basketball game. Like, I'm ready for it. What are we gonna do? We singing today or we hooping today? Either one, I'm ready.
Generational talent right there.
No doubt. All right, if you could co-star in a movie with an actor, who would it be? Action and comedy.
So co-star in a movie with an actor. So action, I'd have to bring back my guy Chadwick, man. Chadwick, like that. Talk about a generational talent. A man stood for so much. I would do with Chadwick. I would do his movie 42.
Nice.
Just a phenomenal movie from start to finish, and just watch him play that role and own that role.
Right.
And so let's see. You said action, and what was the other one?
Comedy.
Action and comedy. Martin Lawrence. I'm gonna say
Yes.
Martin Lawrence. It's just something the way that Martin carries himself just on screen. Right. It's forever funny, right? But then I also have to sidebar with Chris Tucker too, because I grew up on Chris Tucker. That man is hilarious.
Nice. It was interesting. I was watching something. Brother Man was saying that on that episode of Martin with the dog, like they was actually supposed to have a real dog, and he was like, I was just like, man, he would have tripped out if it had been a real dog. But
between that the case of the stolen CD player, but then the courtroom episode too, where he just crazy. Like,
Judge, you gonna bang this gavel? You gonna bang this? So here's a crazy deal. I had a situation like that. So I got pulled over for speeding, and the judge said I didn't have my insurance card on me, but I was insured. So I go into the deal and I tell the judge, hey, Judge, I'm insured. I go right up to the deal. Like, hey, Judge, I'm insured. He said, excuse me, Mr. Jones, you need to sit down. I said, hold on, Judge. You need to look at these papers. I'm insured. Y'all not about to fine me this $295 because I'm insured. She said, if you don't sit down, you about to have more than the $295. And I always think about that Martin episode because I wanted to say so bad, like, Judge, you going to bang this gavel. You going to bang this gavel.
I love it.
And then what sport do you wish you would have played growing up?
What sport do I wish I would have played growing up? I wish I would have ran track and field and took it more seriously. Gotcha. So, because I grew up playing Pee Wee football back when you had the too large helmet, the too big shoulder pads.
Oh yeah.
But I always ran track to stay in shape and keep me busy. But I feel like if I'd have just took it a little more seriously, that could have been one of my dream callings. I don't regret. I don't regret anything. But if I didn't take full steam ahead in football, definitely would have ran track and field, the 1, 2, and the 4. Nice. I know people don't like the 4, but look, I was the first one to hop in the 4 if I could.
Boy, the 4 was when cats used to take off running. I remember my first track meet, I'm a thrower. I'm like, why everybody take off running? And the coach goes, hey, I need some 400 runners. They gone.
That 400 is, and it is a sprint. It's a dead sprint.
There's no doubt. All right. How can our followers, how can they follow you and support you?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to follow me on all Twitter, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. It's at 2_. It's Alexander. Same username for both. So that's at __ it's Alexander.
Awesome. Alex, thank you so much. Sorry, Alexander, thank you so much for being on here. We appreciate you, your time, man, and just the knowledge you've given everybody who's listening. And that's all for today.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Ed. You know you're my guy. Look, I just whatever ways I can continue to support you in this mission. I love what you're doing with the Player Development Pod, man. You know I'm an avid listener, so keep up the work. I'm gonna keep listening.
Appreciate it. Thank you.